welcome to the O Brother Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith.
Hey, Dan.
Hey, man, how you doing?
All right. Doing good.
We are here to pay tribute to Terence Stamp, who we just lost. He just passed away August 17th, 2025, at the ripe age of 87. I think the last film he did was Last Night in Soho in 2021. It was an Edgar Wright film
Oh,
who we
right.
you know, we've t I he was sort of his character was kind of, dispersed throughout the film in different sequences. I wouldn't say he was a star in that film, but obviously a big name in that film. Have you ever seen it?
No,
Yeah,
it was
but,
on my list, but I never got to it.
yeah, and Edgar Wright, of course, we've talked about on the show before too, Shaun of the Dead and so forth, but, so here's another Stephen Frears film too, directed by Stephen Frears. We did The Grifters.
Fantastic film. If you
uh,
haven't seen it,
Yeah, Dangerous Liaisons and My Beautiful Andrette, which was Daniel Day-Lewis's first feature back in '85.
right.
Um, he's such a he's such an interesting director. After watching The Hit, which we're talking about tonight, which came out March 8th, Mike, 1985. It's always this thing with IMDb, right? You see 1984 because it came out at some festival
Right.
somewhere
Right.
overseas or what have you. But the release date officially March 8th, 1985, written by Peter Prince. But I've watched it twice.
Wow.
I'd never seen it before. Mike's holding up. Yeah, so I want to talk about the Criterion release because this is not, for the record, this is not should have been, but it's not an Oh Brother Criterion episode.
Right.
But you can share some of that because
I will.
I I noted here that first was released Criterion April 2009 on DVD, then in 2020 on Blu-ray.
Right. And it's not loaded.
Well, it can't be because I think this might be the hardest film to find any quote unquote extras on. You
Yeah.
can't find an interview, you can't find, I don't care who it is, whether it's Terence Stamp or John Hurt or Laura Del Sol, like Tim Roth, it doesn't matter. There's nothing out there about
You
this
can't
film.
find the movie on Box Office Mojo. It doesn't even come up.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, now, and we should say, for me, anyways, I ended up watching it on Prime. So for those that want to catch the film as a result of this conversation between Mike and I, you can find it on Prime as of right now. So, but Mike, you must have watched that Criterion.
I did, and I listened to the commentary with Stephen Frears, Sir John Hurt, the writer,
Peter Prince.
and Tim Roth.
Well, Sir Stephen Frears, you should be saying as well.
Is it Sir Stephen Frears?
It's
I
Sir
didn't know
Stephen
that.
Frears now, yeah. So that's amazing that there's a commentary on there. See,
Yes.
I would kill to listen to that. Now,
There's
is this gonna be coming in 4K maybe?
I'm guessing it will. And if you look up Stephen Frears on IMDb, if you
Mhm.
see what's coming, it
Mm.
says The Hit.
That's right, I saw that.
And in the commentary, him and the writer he talks about all the mistakes because this was early. This was his second film.
Mm,
And he talks about things he would have done differently.
okay.
And at the end of the commentary, the writer says, why don't we shoot it again? Remake it. And he's like, I'd like to do that.
So it's really slated as being a remake.
Yeah, I think a remake of the same story.
Wow, which would be phenomenal. I wonder
Now, I
who
don't
did.
know if it will get greenlit or not. Maybe it's just because of those comments that it's showing up. You never
Sure.
know.
Sure, because anybody, yeah, you can go in there and add to that. That's interesting. I would love to see that, and it reminds me, we just talked about on a Dirty Harry episode we did. I had shared with you that if you look on Clint's IMDb, you see the Gauntlet,
Right, with
and that
Tom
has a
Cruise.
little bit more meat to it with some names attached to that one. So That's interesting. Listen, I would love, I mean, it's been 5 years since the Blu-ray Criterion release, so it'd be nice to re
You know, given the way it's respected in the industry by directors, Wes Anderson has this listed as his top 5 British films of all time, and
Mhm,
that's his current take on this
mhm,
film. Now, we both know Terence Stamp from The Limey. That might be the first, other than Superman, where we really saw him shine. That's Steven Soderbergh's film, also on Prime.
mhm.
But this is fitting, I
Yeah.
think, for this because this is a tribute to Terence Stamp.
It's kind of interesting. So here's a shot of Terence Stamp from The Limey, actually.
Right, where he's playing a bad guy, you
Right.
know, on a hit, where in this, he's the subject of the hit.
See, it's interesting and juxtapose it with this image from the movie, The Hit.
That's from the hit. Yeah, that's shot in the car, which is basically a travel movie.
It is. It
They're
really is.
traveling through Spain,
Mhm.
and I don't know if they say that's where they are, but they're on their way
Oh, they do.
to Paris,
Yeah, they
where
do
he will
mention.
be executed.
Right. So he's, British mobster. He's been on the, I guess you could say he's been on the run for 10 years,
10 years.
hiding out in Spain, but he seems to be, getting along just fine and loving the life that he's living in Spain. So to say he's on the run, he doesn't seem to be sweating it that much. And I want to say, Mike, many people would have uh, come to know Terence Stamp as I did from a different film, which was, of course, the first 2 Superman films when he played General Zod.
And if you wanna see a great General Zod, watch him in Superman 2, but make sure you're watching the Donner cut. That is the better cut of the film, and it features more Terence Stamp,
Now
and
Mike gets a small check every month
I
based on
know.
his.
How many times have I referenced the Donner cut?
This is true. This is true. But, now I had to watch it twice, and I have to say, I had some revelations watching it the second time. I enjoyed it very much the first time, but after seeing it again and doing as much research as I could, prior to the episode, I was really kind of blown away with what you're seeing and what Stephen Frears did with this story. It's
Yeah.
it's quite phenomenal. And you mentioned this road trip, this long trek metaphor, and I'm just going to say it up front, Mike. So there's right early in the film, there's a sequence early on where you see Terence Stamp in Spain, and
Right.
he's got a bodyguard with him,
Right.
that goes with him everywhere, right? And he's walking out of a market or something, a bookstore, and he buys a couple of books, and they encounter this priest, this Spanish priest that apparently he knows. You can tell he knows this priest,
Mhm.
and they exchange hellos, hola, ¿cómo estás? Whatever. And then Terence Stamp's character turns to the priest and holds the book up to him and says, ¿Cómo se dice en español? Like, how do you say this in Spanish? And the priest says, Los negocios de vivir, which is the businesses of living, Mike. It's such a throwaway little sequence that you probably didn't even grasp onto.
I
But
didn't.
but to me, that sums up really the essence of this entire film.
And I'll get to another point, but I wanna start with the beginning of the film where he
Mhm.
is basically a witness against a mob. He
Right.
goes, uh, to court in England, with the powder wigs and the whole thing, and he
Right.
basically rats out the mob. And in that sequence, he I don't know, the galley or whatever, the people in attendance start singing,
Mhm.
um, "We will meet again.
Mhm.
Someday we'll meet again." That's
Yeah.
actually a true story. That really happened in a case. So Stephen Frears put it in the film.
Mhm.
So from that point on, he becomes a marked man. And like you said, he's traveling with a bodyguard, but then he gets picked up and he's kind of, and here's another one I should get a check for: the Killers, right? Because
Yes.
the main story of the Killers is the fact that there's a guy that's about to be killed, yet he's at total peace with it. Somebody comes to warn him, these two hitmen coming for you.
Mhm.
And Burt Lancaster is like, no problem. Thanks. Well,
Right,
shouldn't we do something? Thanks.
right.
He was sick of running. He was tired of running. And Terence Stamp shows this peacefulness. Like, he gets picked up and he's
Yes.
at peace with it.
And it's see, again, this is a theme that I'm gonna keep going back to, but, like, he's trying to escape his past and sort of seek peace out of this turmoil or chaotic life that he's lived,
Yes.
and you're right, he does. In fact, it's something as simple as this. Here's an image early in the film when he's getting ready to go to the court as you
Yeah.
described,
Right.
and he's looking and just setting himself up to, checking his tie, and he seems very, and even that whole court sequence, he seems to be very amused by the whole thing.
He's very calm.
And
He's just,
I don't think he's ratting them out. What do they call him? Why did you grass? They call him grass.
yeah.
The Again, with the
The slang.
terminology, it's really
Yes.
funny, but he doesn't seem to be doing it with ill will in a strange way. He's just telling the truth. He's
And
just
he says that. He basically says, "I think it's the right thing to do to
yes,
to admit
and
to this."
and what else? Again, the brilliance of Stephen Frears. Now, I don't know if this was written in, or if this was Stephen Frears' decision, but early on, there's again, this is when you see Terence Stamp's character Willie Parker in Spain,
Mhm.
and he's in his apartment there or whatever, and there's a picture in his bedroom on the wall of John Lennon.
Right.
And
And he
it's not by mistake that that's there, of course,
correct, and we
right?
we find that out in the story because they're not buying it, right? Now, we should mention Sir John Hurt and Tim Roth are
Mhm.
the 2 hitmen that are gonna kill him, and they're not buying how calm he is. They're like, "You're really scared." And he's like, "No, death is just another part of life." And he pulls this article out of his pants, and it's actually a poem called, or a sonnet, I think, called "Death Not Be Proud" by
Do you have
John
it?
Donne. I don't have it,
Okay, okay, alright.
but he recites this sonnet. And here we are celebrating his life because he just died. And it's freakishly fitting for us to be watching this film.
Well, because this is very much how Terence Stamp, dare I say, was living his actual life, like, in real life. He was very much a philosopher, very much into, existentialism, and someone
Right.
who didn't seem to be, was very much in his own life at peace with knowing that at some point it's gonna come to all of us. And there's a great line in the film, something to the effect of, no, none of us can escape it.
Right. We're
It's
all
coming,
headed there.
it's coming to all of us, right? So
Right.
why worry? He says.
Correct.
Why worry? But you're right, that tranquility, or whatever you wanna call it, really irks the other characters. John Hurt, and especially Tim Roth at one point confronts him, and this was Tim Roth's first feature film, we should say,
He's so young.
and he's so good in it.
Right. And he
And
was not the original actor was Joe Strummer. Do you know
oh,
that
from The
name?
Clash?
From The Clash.
Wow, I could
He was
totally see that.
cast as Myron,
I could
and
totally
it
see that.
winds up going to Tim Roth by default, who
Unreal.
becomes an Oscar nominee, you know?
Right.
Him, Hurt, and Terence Stamp all nominated for Oscars. The other thing is Terence Stamp is credited 4th. Now, that used to be a big deal, right? Who gets top billing, who's
Mhm.
2nd billed, like with Batman, which
Mm.
we're talking about recently.
Yeah.
Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson. Well, the building in this is John Hurt, Tim Roth, the woman Laura, and I
Del
don't
Sol.
Del Sol, her, then Terence Stamp, then Fernando Rey, who's an icon and an iconic actor in Britain. And he's also, famous in America too, mostly for French Connection, but he's 4th.
Yeah, that's that well,
Somebody of his caliber.
I didn't think too much about it until you're saying it now. Sometimes you'll see it's in the order that they appear in the film.
The credits, right.
Right, right, but yeah, not in this case. Want to mention too, Stephen Frears also did High Fidelity, which,
John
I
Cusack.
still don't own that, which is kinda crazy, especially since, Springsteen is in that one, a little cameo in there too, but if Frears very much a character-driven director, like, he's all about the story, he's all about the script, but yet the things again, the shot composition, the things he does with the camera are just really phenomenal in the film. And some people I think refer to it as the thinking man's gangster film. I read somewhere, and because it's not this gritty, dark, seedy looking film or locations, right? You're in this sun drenched landscape, the coast of Spain,
Right.
even the costuming, you can see, like, for example, Laura del Sol, who steals the film, often throughout,
Yeah.
this kind of pastel colors, and you can see, like, with Terence Stamp's outfit, and even, this great shot here with John Hurt, Tim Roth, and Laura del Sol, this nice triangular shot by Frears in the car.
Mhm.
The color's very bright, very warm, and yet this is, like you said, a road trip leading to an execution.
Right, and there's even a couple of noir elements, like,
Mm,
at one point, they stop for gas,
mm,
and it's just John Hurt and Laura del Sol, and she starts telling the attendant, "Help me, he's kidnapping me, help me," and it becomes a scene right out of a film noir, with glowing green lights and,
mhm.
it's a fantastic shot. One of my
It is.
favorite scenes.
It seems very, Coen Brothers, Coen-esque,
Yeah,
that
that's
sequence.
probably a good, reference,
I
and
was
then
thinking of Blood Simple a little bit at times throughout.
right, and there was a shot talking about the peaceful and tranquility. What about the shot of Terence Stamp in front of the waterfall?
Yes,
If
this
that isn't
amazing.
the most beautiful shot you'll ever see, I don't know what is.
Yeah, it's a great shot, and it's a shot where John Hurt comes up on him and discovers him standing. He thinks he's fled, and he
Right.
discovers him just standing peacefully at this waterfall. And you can tell again, Mike, it's this, you can tell that John Hurt, at least from my interpretation, he just stands silently. And again, I think he's mesmerized and
Yeah,
fascinated by the way this guy just has no care in the world about what's supposed, soon to befall him.
and
It's
he
really
does
quite interesting.
ultimately ask him, "Why
Yes.
didn't you run?" And he said, "You would have just caught me again, and then the kid would have been in trouble," meaning Tim Roth.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just played so, you know, so down to earth as
Mhm.
far as, moving on in life and whatnot. There's a big change that we're not gonna give away that happens. There's a sequence that happens to juxtapose the rest of the film where people wonder, was he really at peace? Was he truly that way? Or was there something inside him that
Mhm.
was afraid of death?
Is this the sequence you're talking about here?
Still waiting for it to
Oh,
pop
wait,
up,
it
but
didn't pop up,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I can bring it up. Can you see this here?
Yeah, now I can see it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the noir-like sequence that I
Yeah.
talked about. You can see the blood stain on the window,
Yes.
which gives away the fact that the clerk that was trying to call the police to turn in John Hurt
Yeah.
doesn't make it to the end of the film.
Poor guy, poor guy. I do wanna mention, Mike, I have to mention, I was not familiar with Bill Hunter, but he has a fantastic
Right.
sequence. He played
Australian actor.
Australian actor, plays a character named Harry, and he's squatting in this mobster's apartment, condo, what have you, and he's
Right.
watching videotapes of basically rugby that
Soccer,
are
yeah.
being sent to him, and you can see he's in a robe, he's got beers, and he's having a good old time, and then, of course, he ends up getting confronted by John Hurt along with the rest of the crew, but he has such a long and wonderful monologue in this sequence. It's just captivating. He's so, so good.
I think of his character as the opposite of Terence Stamp. He is from the minute he sees John Hurt, he's in fear, and you can see it in
And
his
he's a
eyes.
bit of a weasel, bit of a
Yeah,
weasel. Yeah.
and ultimately, he's living with Laura Del Sol,
Yes.
and he
That's his
says she's
girlfriend.
what, 15? I
Mhm.
think he claims she's 15, which,
Yeah.
she's older than that, but, um, y
She was 23 at the time she made the film, which I wanna add regarding Laura Del Sol, who's, stunning in the film. She was a flamenco dancer, Mike,
correct. I
Spanish
was gonna
flamenco
say
dancer.
can dancer.
Can, yeah, and the score is something in this film that needs to be mentioned for those that are into that kind of thing, but it really is another character in the film because the opening first of all, the opening sequence is awesome,
Mhm,
and it's an opening title sequence that features John Hurt's character, and you hear this really cool, kinda slow, kinda bluesy rock riff that is Eric Clapton
correct.
on guitar, who later you see in the credits was assisted by Roger Waters from Pink
Okay.
Floyd. So,
Yes.
um, but but throughout the film, especially when we get to uh, the Spanish coast,
Mhm.
it's that very much that flamenco type music. And
Right.
again, Mike, it's this juxtaposition of something beautiful and also very tense at the same time.
Right, and there's a sequence where Myron, Tim Roth, goes to get 4 cervezas, and he goes into this bar, and there's these
Quattro
yeah,
cervezas.
and he's goes to this bar to get the drinks, and he starts getting teased by, these bullies, and a fight breaks out, and you can really I think they're watching a matador on screen.
Mhm.
And it's really a wonderful juxtaposition to see the matador fighting the
See,
bull.
I remember it, but it didn't
Yeah,
that that's why this film again, if you just watch it, you'll probably enjoy it, but you won't appreciate it until you dive into it again.
right.
And it's one I could see going back to and finding other things like that that maybe you missed on a first run. Um,
And I've mentioned this film to you a number of times,
mhm,
and, you know, honestly, I think, The Limey, I would recommend over The Hit. I think it's a better film overall.
mm,
It's close.
mhm.
But they're both great performances by Terence Stamp. He's got more to do in the Limey. I think that's why I lean a little bit towards that one.
Sure.
But, um, I kinda lost my thought as I went into that. But I think as you said, it takes multiple viewings to appreciate fully, which is
Mhm.
why I think the Limey, you can hop on board from the beginning, sequence with the Who playing the Seeker and
Right.
him seeking somebody out. You're right in on the Limey, where this one, it's a journey. You're taking that same journey that the actors are in the car.
Yeah.
And talk about how tough that is to film, Dan, because we know this from our friend who did Flight Risk,
Johnny
sh
Durango, yeah.
Johnny Durango
With the plane.
shooting inside a prop plane
Yeah.
and putting the cameras so he can get all these
And
this
this
is
is
way before that.
and this is 1984, right? So
Correct.
it's even more impressive. And again, this showing the shot again, the shot composition, right? This would be a great film I would have loved to have seen in film class
Right.
and dissected and analyzed this film. This is a perfect film for that purpose.
And it's funny because the easy watch to do a Terence Stamp memorial would have been Billy Budd, his first big film,
Yeah.
maybe his first film. And he was labeled the most beautiful human being in the world.
Mhm.
And then he went on to date Jean Tierney, who he talks about. There's a long interview. It's kind of like a Tonight Show in Britain with
Right.
Terence Stamp. And he talks about he had a crush on Jean Tierney. Then he became famous and worked up the courage to ask her out. And they did date for a while. But I found that kind of fascinating. I never, looked at Terence Stamp and saw this great looking guy, but he is. He's a good
I
looking
do.
dude.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, and he's a beautiful guy, and,
Yeah.
it just had this charisma about him and but seemed like a sweet soul too, and he's very deep thinker. A lot of those
Very deep.
interviews that you see with him, I mean, you really have to lean in if you
On
wanna
the
hang with him.
Limey, he does the commentary. He's part of the commentary on both of these films, but there's very little of him in the hit because
Mhm.
there's, 6 people. It's tough to get in a word sometimes.
When did they record that? Do you know?
It was, at least 10 years after they filmed it.
Okay, okay.
So, because he talks about Stephen Frears talks about doing The Grifters and other films.
Criterion seems to package those or do those close to the release of the Criterion
Right,
edition.
although on The Grifters, the Criterion Edition has 2025 interviews
Mm,
with, a couple of the stars,
right,
Annette
that's
Bening
right.
being one of them.
That's right. I mentioned this was shot in Spain's Costa del Sol, Mike, literally the coast of the sun coast, and this was at a time a hideout for a lot of British cons. You know, these convicts would hide out in on the coast of Spain, coming
Yeah,
down
because
from Northern Europe. So this again, I think another reason why they chose that location probably to film it.
yeah, and there's a lot of small villages where you just get lost,
Mhm.
and, people kinda tend to keep to themselves or whatnot. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And maybe even in a bar brawl with Tim Roth, if you're lucky enough.
yeah,
It's this long trek metaphor, this whole, existential kind of direction, this navigational thing that's going on. John Hurt's character, uh, to me, he knows where he's going, right? In terms of he's got a job to do.
mhm,
He's been hired to take Willie to France, right, and do the deed. So
right,
he knows what direction he's headed,
yeah,
but he has no idea where he's going in life, which again, I think is why he's marveling at silently, I guess, the way that Willie Parker is going about this whole, he's the one that's about to meet his fate
right, right.
and just does not seem bothered by it at all. And I think it's very
Considering John Hurt was the bigger star, I think, at the time, that can be
well,
argued.
and it had been 10 years since Terence Stamp was a lead in a film.
Correct, and
He'd
I had
he'd
that written down in my notes.
been in films, but was not
Right.
the lead role, certainly. But yeah, John Hurt was great in this film. I don't know, I don't remember why, but how did we get off? Was it because I was taking in all the Alien films that we talked
No,
about? Well, I forget why we brought up Alien with John Hurt. You
I
know,
did because I said to you before you watched the film, you had just watched all these alien films.
right? And okay,
And
so
I
then
said to you, when you watch The Hit, you're gonna get an alien reference.
well, and there's another Alien reference. It's a bit of a stretch, but Stephen Frears did a film in 1998 called The High Low Country,
Hmm.
and Billy Crudup uh, was in that, and of course, he was in Alien Covenant. So, just like
Oh, that's right,
and I
yeah.
think work with Kevin Bacon at some point.
Yeah,
So
right, there's 6 degrees there.
but yeah, a lot of that stuff in fact, Mike, tell me about talk to me about the opening shot, which is really a sequence that appears later in the film with John Hurt walking up this hillside, and he
Mhm.
stops at some sort of memorial. It's like this cross
Yeah,
type statue or something, right? And he's just standing there silently looking out over the countryside in Spain.
right.
And again, I don't know if I'm reading too much into that, but it just seemed like, the kind of lonely wanderer, he's looking for some answers that he just can't quite find.
And
And
given the end of the film, I think he's thinking about his own mortality,
Mhm.
and
Well, what's the last thing that he hears basically is Terence Stamp's voice
that's
recounting
right.
that line to him that, maybe, hey, when we're gone here physically, maybe we go somewhere else, maybe we don't.
Right, it's a voiceover that comes at the end, and it's wonderfully done because there's this sequence with him, John Hurt, and Laura Del Sol that's
Mhm.
gives you closure to the film in a pretty extreme way. That is a weird given that I've always looked at this image,
Yes. Yes.
when I looked up the film on IMDb, I went past it because I didn't expect to see her
Right.
so in front of it, but
Well, I think that it's obvious why she's in the front of it,
right,
quite
it's a
frankly.
sexy shot.
Yeah, and I like the tagline here, the log line, "Even bad guys have bad days."
Yeah, and John Hurt plays this so low key,
Mhm. He
very
really
little
does.
dialogue.
Right.
Uh, this is at a time where that wasn't really a thing anymore, but his performance in Terence Stamp just are kinda like polar opposites sometimes.
Yeah, and make no mistake, there is violence in the film, like, it comes out of nowhere too, so they kinda take you along and think it's almost like this kinda buddy cop, this comedy at times.
Right,
It is very funny at times, but it is very brutal at times too, so,
and the
uh
the funniest scene, which we did not see, Tim Roth was not driving yet. Okay, so you see him, they couldn't afford stunt drivers, so you see him driving the car. Well, apparently he hit the accelerator instead of the brake, took out a whole line of cameras that were filming,
that sounds familiar, I think I heard that story.
and, and Terence Stamp and John Hurt are just they're in the car, they're
Yeah,
dying laughing, and
right.
Tim Roth is horrified thinking, I they're gonna
I'm
fire
done.
me."
Yeah, I'm
And
done.
if you notice, well, you wouldn't because you have to hear when it comes in the commentary, but after that, all of a sudden, John Hurt is driving the car, and he doesn't say it, but I'm guessing it's because of that little screw up.
That's interesting. That is interesting. But yet the character, if that's what really happened, it's his character plays that off as you can see John Hurt, his character's like offended, insulted that because Tim Roth's Myron, his character, wants to be in the back seat with Laura Del Sol, who's traveling with him now too.
Right,
And all of a sudden, John Hurt, he's like, "What am I driving? You're the driver."
right, and
By
there's this underlying romantic feeling that John Hurt has for Laura Del Sol's character that Frears talks about a lot.
Mhm.
You know, he doesn't kill her because he loves her and, all this because
Yeah,
she was expendable.
right.
She was taken from the Australian actor that you showed basically to shut him up, which
Mhm.
didn't work.
Right.
So the point, why keep her around? And they
Mhm.
did. In Myron, Tim Roth didn't want her killed, said, "He deserves it, she doesn't.
Right, right.
We weren't paid to kill her, we're paid to kill him."
Well, where does the hit lay in your Terence Stamp filmography rankings?
That's so hard because he's got such a huge resume. I mean, I think he's
Hmm.
credited, and I'm shocked. You brought up Wall Street and some other films that you forget. He's so
Valkyrie.
good.
Yeah.
Valkyrie, tons of credits.
Yeah.
And I always remember him talking about how after he did Superman, he basically retired. He's like, "Well, I've done it all. I've got money. I don't need anything." And then all of a sudden he's broke.
Hmm.
So to put this in, I don't know. I think right now, because we're celebrating his life,
Hmm.
it's number one. But again, I always think The Limey is the better film.
Mike getting another check.
Yeah, and I think his Jarrell, he gets to play opposite Marlon Brando,
Yes, as
in the first one,
yeah.
and he talks about that in the interview on the Criterion, and he does a Brando impression that'll make you laugh out loud.
It's the shot that I have here of him as Zod. It's interesting because you see Gene Hackman, who we just
That's
lost
right.
recently too. It's kind of strange. Yeah, it's great film. I highly recommend it. I also wanted to mention real quick that he was in a film called, you probably didn't see it. It was came out in 1994 called The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, where he plays a drag queen basically.
That's right.
I believe, and I don't know if he made it in it, but I read that he had. Oh no, he was. So Bill Hunter, who we talked about, who plays this character Harry in The Hit,
The Australian actor.
Terence Stamp enjoyed working with him so much he recommended him to play his love interest in the film The Adventures of Priscilla. So,
Do
anyways,
do you know who directed that?
yes, I have a
Because
Stephen Elliott. Stephen Elliott.
he was so stunned to
Yeah,
see him in drag
yeah.
that it he almost thought it would what wouldn't work,
Yeah,
that
it
people would
was
laugh at it.
right, but I've seen, maybe a third of it, but, the guy from The Matrix is in it, and, Guy Pearce is in it. It's a great cast. It's a
Lawrence
great
Fishburne or
No, 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 no,
somebody else?
yeah, it's, what's his name? You know the guy.
Yeah.
Mr. Anderson.
Oh, yeah, right, right.
Hugo Weaving, sorry.
Hugo, yeah, he's in a lot
Hugo
of
Weaving.
stuff
He's
too.
great, yeah. Well, there you go, folks. The Hit, 1985, Mike, starring Terence Stamp. We just thought, we've been it's amazing we haven't done we'll have to do a separate on the Limey, a separate episode, but
Yeah.
we just felt that it was appropriate and timely, of course, to do this episode kind of as a nod to the late great Terence Stamp. Anything else you want to say about the Hit before we wrap on this one?
No, I just think this was the right pick to
Yeah.
do to celebrate his life because there's so many, references in this of tranquility and being at peace and, not necessarily religious,
Right.
just kind of a peaceful kind of guy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Well said. Well put. Well, listen, if you are not currently following the Oh Brother podcast, make sure that you do. You can find things, all things Oh Brother, by going out to the official website, OHB, as in brotherpodcast.com, ohbpodcast.com. We're also very active on Instagram at OHB Podcast. You can find links to both the video episodes and all the audio episodes, regardless of what podcast player, Mike, you listen to the show on, by just going into the show notes of every episode. Also, there's a link in the show notes if you wish to support the show, which Mike and I would greatly appreciate. Help us continue to do what we love to do and get out more and more content to everybody that listens and watches. Just click that little link that says support the show. We would appreciate your support there too. Like and subscribe the videos on YouTube. But Mike, that's gonna do it. I could talk about Terrence Stamp for days. Great
He's
actor,
great actor, good
great movie.
guy.
Yeah, good movie. Highly recommend this one, The Hit. But that's going to do it, Mike, for another episode of the one and only Oh Brother podcast. I've been your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith. and we will see you next time.
Bye, everyone.